I'm very happy to be here. Haven't seen you guys for a long time, probably won't see too soon either. It's also very nice to give a presentation where things can be missing, and that can be part of the whole presentation point. In my case, I would like to present some thoughts that I think can be a challenge for a typology that you are proposing. And my talk is about Uralic abessives. So in Uralic, it depends on the tradition where, well, grammatico-graphic tradition, whether a certain suffix or a construction is called abessive, caritive, or privative. All these three terms are used often to denote a similar phenomenon, but in different languages and in different writing cultures. So one thing I would still want to follow is the concept that you proposed as a comparative concept. And I have built up my presentation thinking a little bit what kinds of data that I have been dealing with could be perhaps a challenge or maybe simply interesting for your project. So who happens not to know that this conference is really organized right now in the epicenter of the Uralic languages? Here is a map from Wikipedia that is most often used. St. Petersburg region is surrounded by Finnic languages, which are Uralic, but also you can see Uralic languages in the very north of Siberia and Scandinavia. I am talking to you from Hungary, which is a little bit of an outlier. It's a dangerous minefield to present a tree of the Uralic language family. Here is the presentation from the book of on Uralic negation from 2015, and most of the examples from this presentation are also from that book, which had a dedicated section on abessives, caritives, and privatives, and it also contains a paper by Kiefer on Hungarian privatives. So we came up with a general term of expressing lack in Uralic, and we categorized the languages that were in the book, and in addition some other languages as well from the Uralic family as abessive forms related to verb forms, and then we got most of the languages as presenting such forms in a smaller amount of language, but still remarkably, we found that there were forms that were similar in the nominal and verbal domain. And then we made a list of Uralic languages where the abessive forms were related to nominal forms, and where lack is expressed by prepositions or postpositions. Here again, it's just if I use the abassive terminology, it is simply that we are a little bit more phenocentric in our grammaticographic traditions. So probably that would quite much cover what you would call a caritive. So in order to show you more or less what kinds of forms are the most common, these are nominal suffixes. You see roughly that verbal suffixes are as frequent, while prepositions and postpositions are less frequent in the Uralic languages. Here is the internal database description or a abassive caritive typology that I have used for the abassive caritive negations. So I made 5 types. So like in the first one, that nouns and verbs of the language have the same kinds of formants or historically separate morphemes. Type 2, when these formants or morphemes are different for nouns and verbs. Type 3, where only nominals have abassive negation, so caritive in your case, that's the best example for your typology in this project. And then type 4, only verbs have a separate abassive in the paradigm. It happens in Finnic. And type 5, none. So the most common pattern would be in the Finnic languages, where you can see the nouns and the verbs having a very similar ending. So here it's glostes abe. You see here a South Estonian example, an internet site with games where you don't have to pay, maintained by Hungarians, functions now in the Võro language as well. So you without money. So here what you see actually is also that Võro, as well as Estonian, as well as various languages of the region, there use a preposition, and then also this caritive abassive ending suffix. Another very typical feature is in example B, where you see the verb do plus a nominalizer plus the same suffix. Then it is discussed what has been done already and what has not been done yet. So this form is interesting, and I will come back later in connection with Estonian and other Finnic languages. So in many Finnic languages, abassive is counted as a separate case. So in Estonian, it's number 13. And in the historical grammars and also in present-day grammars, you find the so-called supinum, or case-marked forms of case, not marked, but forms that contain a case-like formant. Phonologically, you can see that there are various dialectal forms and various nominalizers can combine or have combined in the history of the language with case markers, bringing about various forms that have by now bleached. So the abassive I have glossed for you in a diachronic way. So you see that some of the cases that the Finnic system has attach or have attached diachronically to nominalizers, not having svam. In the case of the abassive is the formation from the verb swim. So as far as the Finnic languages are concerned, I would say they are pretty similar, and abassive appears there whether the case system is rich or not, and even if the regular nominal abassive disappears from the language or a dialect or an idiolect, perhaps the verbal variant still may preserve. From joint work with Wagner and Beata, we have discussed the caritive and abassive in the Samoyedic languages, where it is usually distinguished in the verbal and in the nominal domain. So what makes it, this is then the type 2, and it's also quite a generally a very much spread type within the Uralic languages. What makes it actually interesting is the meaning and perhaps pragmatics of the abassives and caritives in these Nordic Uralic languages, at least as far as we our study of Nganasan and Estonian was concerned. We can see similar grammaticalization patterns that we have discussed elsewhere. You can also see that in some traditions, there is a difference made between caritive and abassive terminology. So as you see here, the nouns, the affix of the noun is called a caritive, and the affix of the verb is called abassive. So don't let yourself be fooled by the terminology in those languages. So this example is also from the Negation in Uralic book, and it illustrates the parallels between the caritives and the caritives in nouns and verbs. And what we did, that we separated the types within the nouns and within the verbs as well. So the type 1 of caritives in the nouns was, well, this typology was form-based, so inflection or derivation. Here, the challenge was in morphosyntax. It was not always completely clear whether something is inflection or derivation or something more clitic-like. So type 2 languages had expressions by means of preposition, type 3 by postposition, and type 4 was a combination. So we ran into many problems in languages where you had multiple expressions, multiple constructions, and it would be difficult to say which of those expressions is the most common, or which of them represents best some kind of ideal idea of lack. So with verbs, we distinguished the 4 types. Types where a verb stem is where the abessive is attached to the without any nominalizer. Type 2 is where you have the nominalizer that has become opaque. So that would be the Estonian case. And the third one, where the nominalizer is transparent and productive, and type 4 other. So unclear issues concern the finiteness and non-finiteness of the combinations of lack and the absentee. The semantics poses a lot of problems. The difference between standard and abassive or caritive negation is a very slippery issue. There seem to be many in-between categories, and we were interested also in whether there is any proof of etymological relatedness with the abassives of other languages. So here we, the example of Estonian actually shows that if we are talking about objects or entities, what about the abstract entities such as eating or drinking? How much does the nominalizing morpheme participate in the language system where it gets the abassive case as a nominalizer, and to what extent it is bleached? And here there is a test that works with nouns. So if you coordinate with a hat and a shawl, then you can drop the marker from the first conjunct and attach it only to the last one. But it's optional. Whereas when you look at the verbal domain, you cannot coordinate, as you see it here in E. He went home without eating, or playing without having eaten or played. So here you cannot drop the ending of abassive. And that shows that we don't have here really a active nominalizing suffix anymore. Another interesting situation is here with Mansi. And with Mansi, they use the caritive terminology. As we have seen earlier as well, there are interesting interactions with possessive marking. But here, what you can see is the ending tal, the morpheme tal, can attach to both nouns and verbs. And the previous sources are extremely clear and work with extremely unclear and the work with the informants doesn't always help us out here either. So you see that various inflectional suffixes can attach between the caritative marker or morpheme and the absentee. One problem that we have encountered is trying to figure out what the exact distribution is in examples where a caritive marker is a prefix or a preposition or a postposition, and there seems to be some interaction with the exact cases that these postpositions and prepositions govern. The same is so that's what we could see in the Sami languages, but also in all Finnic languages, where you can see that what is governed by the abassive or caritive preposition is sometimes partitive, and sometimes it's just again an abassive ending that we find with a preposition. The prepositions themselves can combine with these verbal and nominal forms and can be taken from contact languages. So this is what we can tell you. But the biggest problem that we encountered was still that it is not clear what the relationship is between the standard negation and the abassive negation or caritive negation, and even very close languages seem to have taken different routes of grammaticalization. So I think I stole it from some of yours website of yours, but I think that that's a good one to finish a talk in on the topic of abassives and caritives. So Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz asks the scarecrow, "How do you talk if you don't have a brain?" And the scarecrow answers, "Well, some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, do they?" So with that, I would like to finish my talk.
Thank you so much. Mehmet has a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that in English and Finnish, some speakers can use form similar to max, uju max.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Perhaps if for Estonian, that is for sure true. It is a form that is spreading very rapidly in the language, probably because of the press who want to kind of use short forms. It means in order to swim. It's the translative case.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
So please, more questions? Comments? Yes, please, Maxim.
Yes, thank you very much. I wanted to ask a clarifying question about Gana-san. You spoke about Ngana-san having two markers, one of which was called their Caritive and another one abessive, but they were different, right? And the second one was actually attached to a verb. So how come it is really an abessive and not some verbal negation? That's my question.
Well, how I see it is I see it as I took this example up because it's not a standard negation, right? So, and what you see in Uralic languages, especially, you can see that very clearly in the Finnic languages, where you can also trace the origins better than in, let's say, in Ganasan, is that what you have here very often is a nominalizer morpheme, which has somehow become non-productive. And what you see is a morpheme that attaches to a verb and expresses the lack of a certain event. So a very general phenomenon in those languages is that that verbs are treated as nouns. So what you are talking about is not just objects and entities that are like the cap and the spear, and so where you can see it, that are very concrete but also abstract. Also nominalizations. So entities that refer to events without any specific temporal anchoring. But for instance, here in the case of Estonian and Ganasan, both languages have started to develop the abessives on the verbs into a type of perfect. So as you see here, you have this menenitona konamato vasuda. Sorry for butchering the language. But both cases, the Estonian and the Ganasan, develop a perfect tense. I have not gone to hunt yet, and in this construction, actually, what the grammaticalization does, it treats abstract events as abstract objects, and maybe I should show some kind of another. Maybe this one. So what you often have in these languages, or at least I can tell you about Estonian and Ganasan, is that what you have is that an abstract entity that x expressed x is without y, like x is without an entity, doesn't have it, but it's generalized to events as well. So events are also treated like objects. So so we can say, yes, it's a verbal negation, but it's not standard negation. It has a very specific niche in the tense aspect. system of those languages.
Yeah, thank you. And just a short clarification question. So by this type, you always mean those cases where, I mean, in separating this type as a special thing typologically, do you always take into account the origin of these forms as some sort of caritive in the past, at least? Or it could be some just thing that appeared from another origin, another source, but which behaves exactly like Mata in Estonian, for example.
Yeah, well, we were interested in the origin as well. Yes, but actually, we don't build up really a huge typology on that. Probably, yes. In our case, we had instances where you have different suffixes. Well, if I think about Udmurt and Mari and those languages which have different past tenses, and there is also I think there might be a different origin, but I'm not a historical Uralicist, so I can go wrong here. But your question is in any case good, and the plan is to figure out whether the origin is the same or not. So in many cases, it's very obvious. It's just clear as day. It's exactly the same. But in other cases, it's not. Like, for instance, look at this Nganasan example.
Yeah.
And probably Sami as well is the same.
Yes, yes. Matti Miestama mentioned Sami as traditionally a verbal abassive, but it's not clear if it was abassive ever at all. Okay, thank you so much.
So I think that we have some very interesting languages where you have the original abassives and you have the loan abassives as well. So it's a rich ground for study. Thanks for the question.
So Orak has a small question, and this will be the last one. I'm sorry.
Good.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Nice meeting all of you.
I have two things to say. One is, this is a very interesting handout that you now have on the screen. Can you share it?
Well, yes, I can. You want to see more about it, or? And
the second question was about your slide. I think it's slide 8, because I mean I'm looking at the thing that you have shared in the Google Drive. It's the slide where you have a diagram with different types of how caritive can be encoded, which is supposedly 10%, which is supposedly 100%, right?
Oh.
I was just confused because it had verbs in it.
So we are going.
Sorry.
So 8.
Yes, that was it. You already moved past it. A bright orange and green and blue slide, slightly higher, I think. Yeah, this one. So it has verbal suffix, and my first impression was, what does that mean? Right? Am I understanding correctly that you didn't mean that there are languages where caritive is expressed as a purely verbal suffix and nothing else is going on?
Well, I actually think that Fyodor Rozhansky's fieldwork has come up with, I think, Ingrian, where one of these small languages where you have only a verbal suffix and not nominal one.
So there's no way of expressing absence except putting a suffix on the verb.
Absence of what, right? We are talking here about.
No, I mean, so if you're talking about a headless horseman.
So you've no, I think no, not in the verbal domain.
Okay.
I'm not sure. So fieldwork is needed here.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. This was the last session of our conference. Thank you to all speakers for their talks. And now we proceed to the concluding remarks, I guess.
Thank you very much. It was very enjoyable here. Just I can't hear you too well.
Well, I would like to say a few words, and after that, if any of you also would like to share their impressions or ideas about caritives, you are welcome. So, in my view, this conference was quite successful, at least for our project. And for me, it was really inspiring and interesting to listen to all the talks. And I would like to thank personally some people. First of all, I'm really thankful to Mati Miestama that you, first of all, that you agreed to give a lecture at our conference. It is really a great honor. And also that you stayed with us, although we moved this conference to online format. I understand that this conference happened in a reduced manner than it could be. And your lecture was really very helpful for us. And well, for me, it was really interesting to see at this topic at caritives from other aspect, from aspect of verbal negation. And of course, we learned a lot of new data that is very important for our project. Thank you a lot. I'm also very thankful for all speakers who agreed to give a talk and presented a lot of interesting data and theories and analysis. Well, now I have a lot of new ideas also that I hope to use in our project, but I think that your talks were also interesting beyond our project, but also for other participants. And I'm very happy that that I saw some participants who didn't give talks, but connected to the conference. And I'm very happy that this very narrow topic is interesting for quite many people. I would also like to thank organizing committee of the conference, and I would like to present everybody. First of all, I thank Lisa Zabelina, secretary of the conference, and it was her who sent you a lot of emails with information about the conference. So thanks a lot. Thank you, Максим Федотов, Сергей Клименко, Ezekiel Koller, Kirill Kazhanov, Natalia Mikhailовna Zaika, and Anastasia Zhuk for organizing this conference. Thank you very much. I would like to mention some organizational things because there might be questions about them. So first, we recorded most of the talks and we are going to upload them to YouTube channel of our institute. we also we are going to upload presentations to the web page of our project. So we will send all the participants the information about that. But if you prefer not to upload your presentation, let us know. Or you can send us a new updated version of your presentation. And I can tell other participants who are not speakers that are interested in materials of the conference, please check for updates the webpage of the conference on our project website. And I hope that during the next 1 or 2 weeks, it will be updated and you will be able to download all the materials. And finally, since I talked a lot about our project, I would like to tell you that you are very welcome to collaborate with us if you would like to share some of your materials, or if you would like to collect a questionnaire. We will be happy for that. Thank you very much. So if anybody wants to add something or to share any ideas, you're welcome.
I just want to say thanks for the organization. Thanks for the great conference. It was very a lot of interesting data, and thanks for the opportunity to be part of it. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the presentations on the website and being in touch with you in the future as well.
Yeah,
this was great. Thanks a lot. This was fascinating.
Thank you. Natalia Perkova reminds in the chat that, yes, we still have this Slack workspace where you can continue discussing different talks, and we're not going to close it or to delete it. So you can continue all the discussions or when it is comfortable for you.
Vlada, is this a cat?
So really, he likes Zoom conference.
Thank you very much and goodbye. See you someday.
Bye. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.